everyone, welcome to today's episode on higher education, research, and AI. I'm your host, Yatharth Patankar, and today we have a special guest who will share insights into his journey from graduation to a researcher. Joining us is Mr. Abhinav Dhere. Mr. Abhinav Dhere is computer vision researcher specialist in medical image analysis, currently serving as a senior research engineer at Siemens Healthineers. She holds an MS by research in electronics and communication engineering from Triple IT Hyderabad and a bachelor's degree from Acropolis institutions. Welcome you, sir. As I already introduced, sir, but how would you describe yourself and your journey in a few words, sir?
Sure. So I think the starting of my journey happened when I was in third year at Acropolis. So I had one thing in mind that time that I wanted a good internship after my third year. So there was one international internship that I was very interested in that time, and I saw that it required Python. So looking at that, I started learning Python in my sixth semester. And there is a website edx.org. So I did two Python courses from that. They were from MIT. So courses were of very good level. And after doing those, I could get the confidence that I can code well, not just in Python, but if needed in any other language. So unfortunately, I couldn't get into that internship because that was a very competitive one with only 7 people selected that year from all over world. But the hard work that I put into the Python courses that got me the IIT Bombay internship. And the IIT Bombay internship, on one side, it was a very good exposure to me for research for the first time, how people do research, how people publish papers. At the same time, it also brought me into notice of Professor Manish Sharma, who was HOD of EC department at Acropolis that time. So Manish sir was at that time he was finishing his PhD at IIT Bombay, and during his defense he met me there. So probably he saw some potential in me and he took me under his wing after that. So for the next 1.5 years, I worked closely under Manish sir in and got involved in his own research, which he was doing as part of his postdoc at IIT Indore that time. And through that research, then we were able to publish two international journal papers. And one of those two papers is one of Manish sir's also highest cited papers right now. So after that, when Manish sir left after his postdoc, he got another job. So I had to figure out how to proceed in my own career because I wanted to stay in the technical side. So it was obvious to me that I needed a post graduation in a technical side. So I started appearing for competitive exam for PG, and I could clear the PGW exam for Triple IT Hyderabad. But after the exam, they also have an interview, and I think the interview it was my papers and research experience that gave me an edge. So it in a way the journey that started from finding good internship to one step after another went on helping me, and finally I could reach Triple IT Hyderabad. That's how I could become a computer vision engineer.
They're truly amazing. So, sir, my first question is you also serve as a lecturer at Acropolis Institution. So, how did teaching sharpen your career, and what were the key takeaways from this experience?
So actually, I love teaching because my I come from a family of teachers from my mother's side. So
Yes, sir.
and in this case, I was also working in my research. So there was that thing also. The other advantage was that since I was working with most of my colleagues were my teachers before and my students were my juniors before. So it was a very gentle and nice introduction to me for the corporate world, for office culture, as that was my first job. There was only one thing I feel bad about that I saw some lack of interest in and passion in engineering from some students. On There's one instance that on my last day as a faculty, I said to a class of third year that I am doing an Ask Me Anything session today. You can ask me anything. And the first question that one student asked me was, "Sir, is attendance compulsory in final year?" So I would want to say to students, don't be like that. Have some ambition. Even if you're not that much interested in engineering, find something in which you're interested and try to do good in that. Kalam sir has said that small aim is a crime. So try to not be mediocre and try to excel in whatever you do.
Yes, sir. So, sir, can you share your experience at IIIT Hyderabad? What are some key learnings or experience that sharpened your career path?
Yeah, Triple IT Hyderabad is actually one of the best things that happened to me, and it was a beautiful part of my life. But I think the most important part of being in a good institution or in a premier institution is the peer group that you get. So no matter how intelligent you are, there will always be someone there who is better than you. Take anything, whether it is research or academics or coding, there are always people who have done better than you. So that keeps you humble and that keeps you inspiring to do more, and it gives you scope of what all you can do. And there was one quote that one IIT professor once told me, which I found very powerful. He said, and it was told to him by his own professor once. So the quote says, "You must know enough to know how little you know." So it's like when you learn more and more, you start finding out what all is there that you don't know. And that's how I think you keep progressing. And of course, technically and research wise, I learned tons of things there. My advisor there, she was the first professor in India to start working on this area of AI in medical imaging. So she started back in 1990s, and her research experience was as much as my age. So I was fortunate that I could learn some things from her vast experience and knowledge.
Yes, sir. So, truly great. So, sir, as you have done MS, so what is MS by research program is like, and what are the areas of research you have done?
Yeah, so MS by research is or any research program. The difference is in a normal MTech or BTech, you have to study some particular subjects and then you have to pass exams, and that's it. And in a fixed duration, you graduate. Unlike that, in the research program, the subjects that you study, those you can do at your own pace, and those are there to supplement your research. And mainly in day to day, you have to pursue research, you have to publish papers, and at the end of it, when you have published enough papers as required by the institution, so then you have to compile it all in the form of a thesis, and then you have to there is something called a defense, where you defend your thesis, and it's like a viva. So
Okay,
that is
sir.
how it works, and there is no fixed duration in that program. So a PhD and an MS by research at IIIT Hyderabad, they're very similar actually. It's like a mini PhD. The difference is only in the length. So in MS by research, you need two papers, one or two papers. In PhD, you need four or five papers, and in MS, you need six subjects. In PhD, you need eight subjects. If you take up not just if you see outside IIIT Hyderabad, in US also there are research track MTech programs. They
Yes,
also
sir.
call it MS, of course. So research track MS programs are there. So those are also similar to this. And
Okay, sir.
coming to my area of research, I worked in multiple modalities of medical imaging. And finally, the work that was my main publication that was related to COVID detection in CT. It was more focused on explainable detection of COVID from CT, and we were able to um, distinguish COVID and non-COVID pneumonia from X-rays. Apart from
Okay,
that, I
sir.
also worked on other MRI, CT, ultrasound, many modalities and different tasks in deep learning.
Yes, sir. It's a great journey you are having. And sir, so my next question to you is, how was your experience from transitioning from an academic to an industrial research? What is the difference between both of them?
Yeah, so what happens is in academia, the primary aim of research is that you have to just publish papers. You have to just put out your research in the world. Mostly, you don't try to implement it in real world. So there is a lot more flexibility that you can do things that you want, regardless of whether they would be applied in the world or not. There is possibility of theoretical research also, or there is more flexibility. Whereas in case of industry research, the primary aim of the research is to supplement the products that the company is building, or indirectly or directly, it could be internal products or the products that would be sold. So that is the primary aim. So the research has to be focused in that way, and therefore the publications happen only when the company wants to get some visibility. So only a part of the research is revealed in the publications. So that is one issue. But at the same time, the advantage of industry research is that you know that whatever you're working is that might be applied in some real world scenario. Whereas in case of papers, it's possible that your paper might remain lying in the public domain and nothing would come out of it. So, like in this case, the one great thing I feel about working at Siemens Healthineers is that whatever I work on, if it is good enough, I know that it's possible that it would go to some Siemens scanner, and in that way, it would help the patients who would be using it. So it was at the same, it feels me, it makes me feel empowered, and it also makes me feel responsible that in a way I am a part of the healthcare system now.
Okay, sir. That's great. Sir, as you told that after your BTech you have done MS. So as in PhD we have to first do MTech and then PhD. So in MS is there anything like this? Or direct
Actually,
BTech
you
we can
don't
do MS?
you don't need an MTech for PhD. You can directly join PhD as well. There were some
Okay,
people at
sir.
IIIT Hyderabad who were doing PhD directly. And of
Okay,
course, for
sir.
MS, you only need a UG. For PhD, also you need a UG. That MTech is only, I think, if you want to study a bit more and you want to get a tag on your resume that you're from a top institution, you want to improve, get a better job. That is the only use of it, I think. If you want to go into
Okay,
research,
sir.
you don't need to go into MTech. You can directly go for PhD.
Okay, sir. So, sir, can you talk more about your projects you have worked on and found particularly impactful and rewarding?
Yeah. The first project that I worked on at in my MS that was on accurate delineation of sulci. So in a brain, if you see the structure of the brain, it is in the form of hills and valleys. So those valley-like structures, those are called sulci. So for a lot of applications, you need to get the regions of that those valley-like structures of those sulci, and that you have to get from the 3D reconstruction of the brain. So from MRI, you get a 3D reconstruction, and then from that you need that detection. And the existing methods at that time were very slow. So we wanted to develop a deep learning based fast method for it. But what happened was I spent about 1.5 years on that project and still I could not get the results I needed. So in that process, I tried a lot of different things. I tried doing the problem in 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension. I tried a lot of different architectures, loss functions. And despite all that, at the end, it turned out to be a difficult problem. We could not get an accurate delineation as we wanted. So it happens sometimes in research that you don't get the results you wanted despite everything, and then you have to stop. But at the same time, when you spend so much time on it, you get to learn more. So in a way, it's ironical, but in research, if you fail more, you learn more. If you get success quickly, then you will be just done with it and you'll move on. At the same time, it also takes up your time and efforts. So my MS total took a time of 5 years. So if anyone from outside research, they would find it odd that how can someone take that much long for a post graduation. But I know that the efforts I put in that and all the things that I've learned from it, those are of value, which provided me value later. So I think
Yes,
that
sir.
happens. So in that way, it was very impactful for me. And in terms of being rewarding, my last project, which was my main publication on the COVID detection, that was the most rewarding because the outcomes we got from it, those were very good. We wanted an explainable method, and that time in COVID time, a lot of papers were coming out very fast. So what we noticed was that even though people are coming with many methods and people are trying to get papers out, they're not focusing on the explainability. If you might have heard in deep learning, explainability is an issue that you don't know why the model is giving the output that it is giving. And in terms of
Yes,
medical
sir.
imaging, that becomes very important. So that is what we wanted to focus on, and that is what we could get. That by we propose a new architecture and a new loss function, and we could show that the model was able to explain why the particular X-ray is being called as pneumonia X-ray or COVID X-ray. And in the way that it explained it, that was the similar to what doctors would use in a clinical setting. We also got feedback from a very senior Ames Delhi professor, and he was also appreciative and found this useful. So In that way, that project was most rewarding.
Okay, sir. True, great. Sir, as I am also an AIML student, so there is most of the time a issue of data sets. So we are not getting the data set we are want. So how do you tackle this issue?
Yeah, true. That is one of the major issues in particularly in medical imaging. In general vision, you do get a lot of data, but in terms of medical imaging, data scarcity is a big issue.
Yes, sir.
So a lot of different approaches are being proposed in the literature to tackle it, like synthetic data generation or augmentations or more focused attention. But there's no one formula that fits all. You have to try and experiment and find what works for you.
Yes,
Ultimately, if
sir.
nothing works, then you have to go for more data acquisition.
Yes, sir. So definitely. So, sir, my next question is, how do you handle failures in your research, and what have you learned from them?
Yeah, so like I said, failures are an integral part of research. Until you fail, you don't get to learn. And what matters is that when you fail, you try to note down what happened, what all you tried, and you need to learn from that. So, like I said before, I think we already discussed this. Like more you fail, more you get to learn.
Yes, sir. So definitely. Sir, and as you told that most of the time there's an issue that most of the people don't explain why the things are there. So I have also
Yeah.
participated in most of the hackathon, and there's an issue that how that model is getting to know that this is the issue. Then, as you told that this is happening, so it was really helpful for me and understanding the AIML models. So,
Yeah.
sir, now coming on to the very common question nowadays, what is your take on AI? How do you think it will affect the job in the future?
It's definitely going to affect jobs, and not just going to, it's already affecting the way that you work. Now we use GitHub Copilot. I myself use it at my workplace, and I find it very useful. So
Yes,
now
sir.
you don't have to write everything. You can write a part of the code. You just have to be specific, and it will provide you a snippet of what you want. There is also that chat option in that you can ask whatever you want. Earlier, you had to go through many different forums and find your solution.
Yes,
Now you
sir.
can just ask the chatbot what is the issue. So it's definitely affecting the way that we work. But I think it would be in a positive way, because that's what happened in the time when machines were introduced. After when machines were introduced, people thought that people would lose jobs. But when industrial revolution happened, it eventually boosted the economies worldwide, and people found new work roles and got into those. Similar happened when computers came out, that people thought that people would lose jobs, but then new jobs came up, the whole IT industry came up, so people got involved in that. I think similarly in future, new domains and new jobs will come up, and people will get adjusted to that. So the way we work will definitely change, but it will be in a positive direction. And I think one tip I would want to give is that if we need to be aware of what is happening and be ready to cope with whatever is coming up in new technologies. If you're doing a manual repetitive job, then you can be sure that it is going away, because all manual repetitive jobs are going to be automated. But if you have an attitude that you're learning whatever is coming up and you're adapting to that, then your job is safe, and you'll be doing well.
Okay, sir. Sir, and as you have made many models on computer vision, so what is your approach on giving when a problem is given to you? So for a computer vision problem.
The most important thing in any AI problem, I think, is understanding the data. So exploratory data analysis, that should always be the first step. You should see what kind of images you have, what kind of issues are there in that, what could be a basic principle is, if you cannot see it, most likely the computer won't be able to see it. So the data quality should be good in that way, that you should be able to see what you want to detect, and you should have a good class balance. So first of all, you should try to tackle those things. If your data is good, then most of the problems are solved. People try to do a lot of tweaking in hyperparameters and architectures,
Yes, sir.
but until the data is good, none of that is going to help.
Okay,
In
sir.
our work also, we spend a lot of time actually trying to perfect our data. So once
Okay.
as we continually improve our data, then we try our models on that. And then, of
Okay,
course,
sir.
once you're sure that your data is good, then you can start with a simple approach first, like what we call a baseline approach. Then after that, you can, if that doesn't work, then you can go on increasing the complexity. You should
Okay,
always
sir.
start with the simplest approach first.
So, what you will define a good data? A data which is having a maximum image, or a data which is having minimum image with a high image quality.
There is no point if you are having same data repeated. So
Yes,
there
sir.
should be diversity of what is going to happen in your real life data. The more your training data is similar to your real life data, the better it would be. That's what
Okay,
happens
sir.
a lot of times, that the data distribution in your train data is very different from your test data. So then you might get very good accuracy on your train, and it would fall drastically on your test set in the real
Okay,
world.
sir.
So that is one thing, that you should have enough diversity in your test data. And if you're sure that something is not going to come in real world, then you should not keep it in your train data as well, so as to not confuse your model.
Yes,
So
sir.
that is
So,
why we
because
have this
similar.
approach. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So that is why we
So,
have this approach of having the train validation and test set, and we try to keep them similar. And the validation is so that your model doesn't overfit, and the test set is that so that you don't overfit. Because when you try different approaches, you will try to perfect your accuracy on validation only. You'll be focused on that. But
yes,
then
sir.
if the test set is different, you will find out that you just overfit on that particular data that you had.
So, sir, as you told that you got internship in IIT, and as getting admission or internship in IIT is a dream of every student. So, what is your experience in IIT Bombay?
Yeah, definitely. It was my dream college as well when I was in school time. And after 3 years, I couldn't get in that time, but after 3 years, I got to live that. I got to live among IIT students and work with the research students there. So that way, it was like a dream come true. But in terms of the research culture, that is very good. Uh, and you see that people are coming up in their pajamas and t-shirts to lab, and some people even sleep in lab. So the
Yes, sir.
research culture, that is definitely amazing there. And the work I was doing, that I was doing under Professor Karandikar. He's in his research group. He's now Secretary of Department of Science and Technology. So that was and is, I think, one of the top telecom standards development group. Uh, so there, that was my first exposure to research, and I had understood how the process of research works. And my work there, that was in terms of developing simulations for the experiments that they were doing. They were working on LTE and WLAN internet networking. So I was making simulations in NS3 to aid the experiments in that.
Okay, sir. So, great. So, sir, what advice would you give to the young researchers and students who aspire to work in the intersection of AI and medical imaging?
I think it's a very hot area still, and in earlier times, there were only three companies that were mainly hiring in this domain. That is the top three device manufacturers: Siemens, Healthineers, Philips, and GE. But then after deep learning came, everyone started jumping into that arena. And now, if you see, Google is working in it, Microsoft is working in it, and tons of startups are coming up which are working in that area. So if you are interested in it, then it's a very hot area and you should definitely go for it, is what I'll say. And one more advice I would give is that don't go after the expensive courses that are being pitched nowadays. A lot of coachings are coming up with shiny advertisements, and they promise you that they'll make you expert in AI and everything. You don't need
Yeah.
any of that. Everything can be learned online through mostly free resources. So you should try to learn by yourself. And once you have gone through courses and understood the concepts, then you should try to build as many projects as you can. There is this website called Kaggle on which you can do machine learning tasks. So you should try that. Then specific to medical imaging, there is a website called Grand Challenge. So on that, you will get a lot of data sets and as well as problems. So you should
Okay, sir.
look at such things and try to build projects.
So, sir, as you mentioned about course, so my next question is related to it. Are there any sources, course, or skill you recommend to focus for preparing for the career in this AI and machine learning field?
Yeah, definitely. There is for Python, the course that I took, the one I talked about before, it's called Introduction to Computer Science and Programming in Python. It's available on edx.org. And for AI, there is courses from deeplearning.ai by Andrew Ng. So those are, I think,
Yes,
the
sir.
best courses for that. There is a deep learning specialization on Coursera. You should do that whole specialization. Once you do that, that covers most of your fundamentals. And then, of course, you need to have some math basics before you get to that. So linear algebra and probability theory, these two subjects are very important. So you should try to be good at that. A lot of people skip these math fundamentals actually. They try to jump
Yes,
to
sir.
training models. But when you have your math fundamentals clear, then you're able to actually understand what is happening and you're able to come up with really innovative ideas. And I'll share the list of these courses with you. So I think you can put them in the caption later.
Definitely, sir. Yes, sir. So, sir, outside your professional work, what hobbies or activities do you enjoy that help you unwind and stay motivated?
I like to sing, and current students might not know about this, but in my time, we started a rock band in Acropolis, and then we
Okay,
organized our
sir.
own rock concert in Ardor once. And then I love computer games also. That I've been doing that since I was 3 or 4 years old. So I think that is one of the reasons that I became passionate about computers, because at that time, the computer I was using was my uncle's old black and white DOS machine. So you had to do
Yes, sir.
everything through command line and entering commands and going through stuff. So that got me hooked to that, I think. And then actually coding is also one of my hobbies. So sometimes my work itself becomes an enjoyable thing.
Yes, sir. Sir, so you must be have participated in many hackathons or any other thing.
Yeah, I did. In PG
So,
time, I
sir,
did in many places. In Acropolis, I took part in the TCS hackathon, and then in PG, I took part in multiple hackathons. One of them, I think, was in Zeiss in Bangalore. So there, they introduced us to the suite of Zeiss products, and then we had to build something with that. So we came up with one idea that we could use the VR that they had to do eye testing, because the VR could trace gaze. So based on the gaze tracking, we could do eye testing.
okay, sir. Sir, so as you have participated, so what is the approach that you solve a problem in hackathon? Since we have a restriction of time and we have to do things in a restricted time. So what's the approach you do? As you told, you have developed an eye vision headset like things.
So what happened was in this Zeiss hackathon, actually we made the mistake that we tried to come up with the idea after going there. What ideally you
Yes,
should be
sir.
doing is that if you know that a hackathon is coming up after a few months, you should start working on it right away. And there you would just be showing that you're doing it. The most of the implementation should happen before. So that is the
Yes,
ideal
sir.
thing. And what happened in our case was also that we were, I think, being too hard on ourselves. And I think that was a result of the work that we were doing at Triple IT, is that we were not finding our own ideas good enough. So half of the time, actually, the hackathon started from 3 p.m. and till 4 a.m. next morning, we were just rejecting our own ideas. We were coming up with ideas and rejecting them. We were thinking that's not good enough. Then at the
Okay,
end, when
sir.
we saw presentations, we saw that many people were presenting the ideas that we had rejected.
Okay, sir. So,
So I
so
think
as you have done
we
intern.
sometimes shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. But it
Yes,
also
sir.
helps because it helps your raise your standard. So that's what I said, that when you're with a good peer group, you try to do more better and better, because you know the scope of what all can be done.
Okay, sir. So as you have done internship from IIT Bombay, so what is the advice since I am also in third year? So how can I approach for an internship and or get an internship?
It's honestly it's hard because professors get a lot of emails. So you what the best you can do is you can try to make your resume stand out, and try to do more and more projects, and improve your skills. If your skills are good, then some or other place you'll find opportunity. And don't rely on one place. Apply in a lot of different places that you can find. So
Yes,
some
sir.
of them will click after all.
Sir, and nowadays most of the students are aiming for a paid internship. So what is your thinking on this topic? Should a student
By
go for only for paid or
paid
anything?
mean you mean where you have to pay something or when they have to pay something?
Sir, when we have to pay something to the company to get the internship,
Yeah, I
and most of
think
the
it's not.
company,
I think such things are not needed. Mostly those things are like training programs. So that's why they are charging you because they're teaching something. So I think you should try
yes,
to
sir.
find your way into real work. And preferably, if you want to go into research, then try to go for a research internship. Otherwise, go for some industry. A lot of industries hire interns. So you should try to get
Yes,
there.
sir.
It's okay if you don't get much money, but you don't need to pay for anything. Because when you're paying, it's more like you're doing a coaching. That's not going to help that much. You should be able to experience real life work.
Okay,
And
sir.
I think one thing you can do is if you see some ad, you should keep going through job portals. So in job portals, apart from the internship search website, the job portals also put out the ads for interns as well, like they do for other jobs. So if you come
Yes,
across
sir.
something, then try to find the referral for it. If you approach people on LinkedIn, it's very likely that they'll give you a referral. And if
Yes,
you have
sir.
a referral, then it won't be sure that you will get in, but the chances of your application getting seen increase because the companies get a lot of applications and they're not able to see through everything. So they give preference
Yes,
to
sir.
those that have referral. And I think a lot of people don't have an issue in giving referral if you approach them on LinkedIn directly. I myself get many requests every day and I do give referral to most of them.
Okay, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for your insights. It's been a pleasure having you in this broadcast. Your journey is truly inspiring, and I'm sure our listeners will find your experience and advice invaluable. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Yatharth, and thanks a lot, Acropolis Alumni Cell, for having me.